Hi folks, and welcome back to Quarantine According to Eddie. It's the 8th of May, it's about 10 to 9, and I thought I'd do a piece today on VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, celebrating the end of the war in Europe, the Second World War. And I want to focus this on bravery. VE Day followed a lot of very hard, intense fighting in Europe in the very last days of a very long war. People had suffered a huge amount, and having made the final push, it came to victory in Europe. The Second World War in Europe was over. VJ Day, victory in Japan, came slightly later, and then the Second World War was over altogether. And there are many things that you can say about that part of the war. But something that cannot be denied was the bravery that was required. And often bravery is what is referred to in those poems, eulogies, speeches. Bravery is often used. But what's actually meant by bravery? What is bravery? Because bravery is an often used term, but one that maybe is not easy to define. I've met a lot of people who thought they were brave and weren't, but also a lot of people who definitely would never have described themselves as brave, but certainly were. And to me, bravery is not about whether you're afraid or not. It's not about whether you want to do something or not. Bravery is knowing what needs to be done and doing it, regardless of the potential cost, regardless of how you feel about it. It's doing the right thing. You could argue what moral code, what moral standards you use, but it is doing the right thing in the face of everything else. One of the bravest acts that I have ever seen came from a person who I don't think would ever describe themselves as being brave, no matter how hard they were pushed. They were in an incredibly vulnerable position due to their circumstances and faced with an incredibly difficult decision that put themselves at great personal risk, potentially, with no fallback to go to. And we discussed options and possible strategies for a long time. But in the end, what it came down to was that this person had to make this decision on their own. A decision that could affect their life hugely. And there must have been huge internal conflict while they were thinking about this. And yet, not only did they pick the choice that was brave, they went one step further and made an honourable choice to go with that brave choice. Against all of the weight and pressure sitting upon them, they went ahead and did that. I'm still proud of them for that decision today. But that to me is the essence of bravery. It is ordinary people making extraordinary decisions. Think back to VE Day. The troops that went out to fight for this country. Most of them will have been ordinary men, ordinary boys. There will have been women, combatants as well, but mainly ordinary men and ordinary boys, thrown into extraordinary circumstances, given terrible choices to make. They'll have felt fear, anguish. It'll have traumatised them. But in the face of that, they will have made, on the whole, brave choices. Done the right thing for the moment, according to the situation. But it goes beyond the front line. Bravery also extends to those who got up every morning and worked in dangerous jobs, such to munitions factories to keep the war effort going, the parents and the children who were respectively evacuating their children and being evacuated, the bravery of sending them off to live with some complete stranger to keep them safe, the bravery of the elders in the community who either joined the Home Guard or the air raid, became air raid wardens, despite being perhaps elderly, infirmed, still providing their part and putting themselves at risk. Volunteer firefighters, the list goes on. But it's these ordinary people, as well as the heroes, who we should look to and perhaps take inspiration for ourselves. I'm not going to start drawing parallels because there's obvious inspiration to be taken for this current time. I'm not going to start talking about that. But for me, I would say it is important for us to try to be brave, to try to make brave decisions. It is something that's learned. You're not born brave. And a brave decision can be large or it can be small. It can be as simple as saying, "No, I disagree," to a loved one. It can be as simple as saying, "That's enough." Just getting up and facing the horrors of the next day, for some people, is incredibly brave. So, as we mark VE Day, and as we think about the bravery of those who sacrificed so much for us, let's remember it's not just the heroes who wanted to get out and fight, who slayed 10,000 enemies in the history books. Bravery existed in the ordinary, in the scared, in those who considered themselves to be weak. And that bravery can exist within us as well. Of course, if you've got any questions or comments, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.